So kind of a fun module here that is great because it takes that infrastructure that was awesome because it was a remote access infrastructure and then converts it into one that we would actually want to employ in our environments today. What have we talked about in this module? We have talked about implementing a Radius server and getting that remote access server out of our Active Directory domain so that it is in a much better position to be able to stand between us and the rest of the outside world out on the internet. Here in this module, we talked about configuring a Radius server and to a much lesser extent, configuring a Radius proxy, that special configuration that stands between other Radius servers and the Radius client devices that have need for the authentication services Radius provides. We talked also about configuring Radius clients, or effectively rebuilding our remote access infrastructure. We also took a look here at some of the client settings that may be necessary either to manually configure or to configure through a group policy preference like what we did back in that earlier course. We then took a very quick look here at NPS templates that are perhaps less than what you might imagine them to be. A look also at Radius accounting, which is important to ensure you know what behaviors are going on inside your system. And then a very quick look here at configuring certificates so that we can support those additional or higher order authentication methods that are necessary to support some of those additional features that we'll be talking about in the modules coming up soon. But before we get into network access protection, coming up next, we are going to continue this discussion here on our network policy server itself. And this time we'll focus in on the network policy server policies. Now, the whole point of a network policy server is to create a single location where you can define the policies for users coming in and the different characteristics of those users, their devices, their location, and so on. Those network policies come generally in two different types. There is the connection request policy and the network policy, where we'll discuss the different characteristics you can lay into place, some of the conditions that must occur for those incoming clients, as well as which features and other conditions over on the remote access side that you'll lay into place whenever a user comes in. These are things like multi-link and bandwidth allocation, IP filters, encryption types, and even IP addressing. Our next module is relatively short, but I think it'll be important, especially as you start introducing additional complexity into your remote access infrastructure. This continued conversation on our NPS server is the topic for our next module coming up.